Yes, Walter Don. This is part 2 in our series, Premiere Pro CC, the Getting Started tutorials. So in our last tutorial, we worked on importing assets or videos into our scene. I call them assets. There's other things that could be assets. It could be a background. It could be a picture, an image. And those are usually, those are over here, and we worked on how to import them. Now, we'll be reinforcing all that as we do different things today. But today's tutorial will be on building intro titles, actually taking some of the video and doing some more creative things with it. So let's get started. Let's not waste any time here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come up here and we're going to right click, new item, and we're going to create a colored matte background. And we're just going to hit OK for this. Let's make it the same size as our video. And we will make it like a dark, you can make it whatever color you want. It really doesn't matter. And just name it the color that it is. I'm going to call it red. Hit OK. And I'm going to drop that into our scene. So let's take our scrubber and go over to the beginning. And you can see everything's red. Now let's come down here. This little sidebar will actually create more room. If you don't have the scrub bar, you probably have something over here. It looks like a little set of mountains, and you can make them bigger or smaller. That's where you'd scrub on the older versions like CS5 and maybe CS4. So as you can see, all this does is it's a red background, and as we play it, it just goes right into the video. That's really not that exciting. We're going to be doing more exciting backgrounds a little later on. I'm going to shorten it just up a little bit, and you saw how I did that. Just grab the end, and you can make this, since it's a static asset, as long or as short as you want it to be. So since there's like really, how can I put this? There's no moving parts. It's not a video, so there's no real true beginning and end to this. So you can make it as long or as short as you want it to be. So on top of this, we're going to put a title. So there's a few ways to do this. You can file, new, and come to title, or you can once again just right click in here and go into new item and title. And we're going to call it intro. And hit OK. And little note, this window will open up your text editor. And this is a whole nother tutorial just by itself, going over all this stuff. So we're not going to go into everything here. It's just important to remember to click on the asset you want to use. So right now I'm going to click on text, and that way I can actually put text in here. I'm going to put Walt's cooking. Oops, actually, I didn't actually do it. There it is. Walt's cooking 101. And then to move it around, you can just come up here and hit your little selection tool, and you can move it wherever you want. Rescaling in here actually stretches the letters. That may not be what you want to do. So, so if you want to change the font size, you would do it over here in the sidebar. And then again, move it where you want it. And there's so many different controls over here. Again, this is a whole tutorial by itself. Pick a font that you like. I'm going to pick, that looks pretty cool, but I'm going to have to actually make it smaller now. So I'm going to just make it something like that. Very cool. And you also do drop shadows over here and everything else. So again, this is something you'd want to come in and explore on your own. You can see the opacity and the angle of the shadow and all that kind of good stuff. And you can see we put a little drop shadow in there. So I'm going to turn this off, and now I'm just going to pull it into our scene, and I'm going to resize it to our background. And now if we hit play,
and on today's show, I'm going to
bam, it goes right into our show. So what we want to do is we want to do a little bit smoother transition. So we go over here to our video transitions, and there's like a million to choose from. For something like this, I usually pretty much just use a cross dissolve, and you have to make sure you do it on the intro, the letters or the words, and the background as well, so they both happen. See how it dissolves in, and you can double click on these, cancel that, and make them shorter or longer. I kind of like them shorter. I don't really want them too long. I don't think they need to be that long. I'm going to stretch it out a little bit to match the one below it. I just want a quick in. Actually, I'm going to make it just a little bit longer to match the
show. I'm going to show you.
See how fast that was. The other one took too long. It was a slower dissolve. I just want a quick in. Done. So The next thing we're going to work on is a little further down in the video, a little ways down here. I talk about oregano oil. So let me get to that part. Let me find it. Scrub along here. We're going to scrub, scrub, scrub. Look, and I'm talking about the oregano oil. And when I'm doing this,
oil and balsam.
so I want to actually promote the company. So I work with them. They give us a lot of free oil for our cooking shows. So what I'm going to do is basically I could drag in that same asset that I created already, the background. So now I have this really cool background. But maybe this time I don't want it to just like cover up the whole screen. So what I'm going to do is give myself a little room to make the area bigger. Click on the asset. So you got to make sure you click on the asset you want to work on. And then up here in you have all these different controls. You can position, scale, rotation, opacity. So I'm actually going to animate the position. So I'm going to take this position here, come in, and I am going to move it way off the stage. So right now, let me bring it up. It is off the stage. So at the beginning, when it first comes on, I'm going to have it off the stage, and I'm actually going to keyframe this. So in order to keyframe, you click this little watch thing over here, this little stopwatch. And once you do that, you only have to do that once. I'll move a little further into the video. And this is just an enlarged view of this. So this up here is an enlarged view of this timeline that we've created. If we stretch this, this would actually get bigger as well. So about here is when I want it to come in, when I want it to start coming in. So by here I want it in, so what I do is I change this, and I want it to come up about this far. And then I want it to stay up there for about this long. So all I'm doing now, since I've already clicked the stopwatch, is just clicking this little thing over here, this little diamond, and it creates a keyframe, which is a point in time. So that's just a point in time. Something's going to happen in this point. And at this point, I'm saying it stays, nothing changes. It stays exactly the same. But a little further down here, I want this thing to come back off the page. So between here and here, there's this transition where it comes off the stage. And you can actually move these around. If I want to make this a little right at the end, and I want to make this happen here. So very cool. But you can also, let's go back to the beginning here. If you go under opacity, opacity by default is always at 100%. So right here, I'd want the opacity to be 100, so I'm going to keyframe it. And at the very beginning, I want the opacity to be 0. So now as it comes on, it's going to come from invisible to solid. Kind of cool. And then right here, I'm going to keyframe it again. So now between here and here, it's 100% solid all the time. And then here at the very end, I want it back to 0. So when it leaves the stage, it's going to also lose its opacity. So it's going to go invisible as it's leaving the stage. Very cool looking. So what do we want to do now? So now let's go up here to our bin. Let's create a new item, another title, and we're going to call this oregano. Oregano, because that's what's going to be there. And we're going to hit OK. And I'm going to put this scrubber about in the middle, because I want to kind of make sure, because wherever this scrubber is, that's what you're going to see in this window right here. So I'm actually going to click in here, create some text, and www.oregano.com. And again, I click on this arrow to move it where I want it, my selection tool, put it right here in the middle. I'm going to hit OK. So now I know when I bring this down here and match it up on stage, I'm actually going to snap into the line here. I'm going to actually move it over a little bit. I know when it comes up, it's kind of where I want it. Now you can see that's a little high. So if I double click back into this, I can move this down now just to adjust it a little bit, and as you can see, it happens real time right on this. It happens real time right over here on this screen. So I want to do the same thing to the title that I did to the actual bar that comes up from the bottom. So at the very beginning of my title, I'm going to click on this asset. I'm going to click on the motion. I'm going to click on position. And while I'm at it, I might as well just click on a keyframe for opacity. So Let me do it here. So we're going to click a keyframe, and a keyframe, move these back to the very beginning. So I'm going to go a little further in, and I'm going to click, actually just click a keyframe again, because this is the final position where I want it, and this is where I want it to be 100%. So I'll just go back to my beginning, and I'll move this off the stage, just like that, and I'll lower the opacity to 0. So now everything works right, and it sure does. It comes up with the title bar. And then I'll find just right there, apparently where I had the other one leaving the stage, so I'm going to key in it. So what I've done is, between here and here, nothing happens between these 2 points. But then at this point, this starts to leave the stage, so I'm going to have this leave the stage as well. And I'm going to bring the opacity at the same time back down to 0. So as it leaves the stage, it'll do the same thing. It'll disappear off. Very cool. So let's actually see a little bit of this in real time, how it happens. It happens very quick.
So this is amazing. You can go to alevino.com to actually get this.
So, and you know, you can see where I said alevino.com. So that's probably where I'd want to key mark that in.
And drizzle it over top of it, and maybe put some fresh garlic on top and some sea salt, and let it cook in the oven for a little bit, and use that for dipping. So this is amazing. You can go to
alevino.com. So I'm going to actually move these over to match up. I want them to see the words when I say alevino. So here we go.
On top and some sea salt, and let it cook in the oven for a little bit, and use that for dipping. So this is amazing. You can go to alevino.com to actually get this oil and balsamic. It absolutely.
So as you can see, the words came on and were there while I was actually saying alevino.com. So people were seeing it and hearing it at the same time. Very powerful. Now another thing we can do is back here you can see we have this part where we did this close-up. Well, I'm going to show you something that's a little cooler. What we can do is I am actually going to, you don't have to do this, but just so I can point this out, I'm going to move this up a couple of levels. Okay, and what I'm going to do is click on this, and I'm going to show you that we can do the same thing with our video that we just did with those titles. So I'm going to actually scale this down. So you can see this is like the close-up of the background. So this is another way to do video. So I'm going to actually take that, I'm going to slide it to the side. I'm actually going to move it up. A lot of times you'll see these down in the corner, and you can scrub this up here. And to make it stand out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into our bin. I'm going to do it a little differently this time. File New, Color Matte, hit OK. I'm going to make it white. And I'm going to call it white, W-H-E. And I'm going to pull this in right below that piece of video that I pulled up, and I'm going to make it the same exact size. So you saw I'm just dragging the end to make it the same size. Now what I'm going to do is click on this asset. I'm going to go into that. I'm going to scale it down. And I'm going to move it up and over. Scale it down some more. Move it up. Scale it down just, and then I'm going to move it over just a little bit. So I'm going to almost like frame it out. And that way, so now when you watch this video, this is kind of cool. You'll be seeing the big version here, but the close-up version here. So actually, let me make my screen a little bigger so you can see how cool this is. Let me drag this over here. So if you were watching this on the big screen, you'd be seeing,
out into this pan.
You'd see a close-up right here of what we're seeing right here on the main video, and then you can fine-tune this and maybe bring this up a little bit like that. Very nice. And if you wanted to, you could actually do another frame inside of this. There's no limits to how many you could do. You could actually do a video of a video of a video inside of itself. So those are just some cool tips. Now on our next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to actually make these intros a little cooler. And if we wanted to, real quick before I get out of this, let's actually take and put a cross dissolve on this and on this. So as it comes in, you'll see it's going to fade up onto that stage.
And we're going to dish it out into this pan.
Very cool. And you could also have text. You could like have some text that says close up right below it. It's totally up to you. So let's just do that real quick. File New, Title, We're going to call it close up. And we're just doing this just to show you what you can do. There's no real rhyme or reason to what I'm doing right now. We're going to close up. And we're going to take this and we're going to move it on the stage right underneath this. We're going to shrink it down, the font size down. And actually, we're going to change that font color because actually that stands out pretty good, I think, as white. Maybe what we'll do is we'll move it right up onto the video, make it smaller. Just so everybody knows it's a close-up. I don't know why they wouldn't know that, but... And, of course, we're going to now take this, now that we've made it, we're going to drag it onto our scene and put it directly above where we're working. I'm going to give myself a little more room, make this the same size as the stuff below it. And if you're having a hard time making it the same size, like you just saw I was doing right there, you just got to make your work area a little bigger. And then I'm going to drag this dissolve onto there. Cool. And now you'll see as it comes up,
and we're going to dish it out.
All three come up together.
And
they
you do
dissolve
not have to
in.
grease it. Again, the mayo.
You can make them all dissolve out at the same time. It's totally up to you. So if you wanted to do it, make them lead the same way, you can just put a dissolve on the back end of these bad boys as well. So let's do that. And right here like that. And now if we get to the end of this, you'll see they'll kind of all disappear off the stage. Kind of cool. So, and I guess something else we can talk about while I'm here is, and I think we talked about this last time, but let's just reinforce it, is we're gonna actually save this video. So let's go File, Export, Media, and then we're going to decide what we're going to save it for. I'm not actually going to make a DVD out of this. I'm just going to make an H.264, like something for the web. And underneath your custom settings, you have all these cool, if you're going to put it on YouTube, these are just big time savers. Everything's pretty much set for you, pretty done. Wistia has some certain rules. They would want this at 3 and 5. For what we're doing right now, we can just do a 1 pass. You can see the estimated size, and this is just estimated. So the higher this number, the higher this number is going to be. If you do a 2 pass, you know, these numbers get, they definitely change. So we're going to name this Tutorial 1 Part 2. Part 2. We're going to put this under, where are we going to put this? Well, let's put it on the, I guess here it is. And tutorials. And we're going to just save it here. Web tutorial. So we're going to call it web tutorial. Just so we keep in line with what we've already done. Part 2. And we're going to hit save. And we are going to, you can either queue it, we're just going to export it. And we'll talk about queuing in one of our other videos. So I'm not going to make you guys sit around and watch this happen. I'm actually going to pull these off the stage. I have 2 screens running right now. But that's it for your second tutorial. Your third tutorial will show you what to do once you've got these all done and how to add some more cool, exciting things. And we're actually going to get into maybe even a little After Effects. So have a great night.